Eid Mubarak and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues from the industry. Thank you for tuning in for the Responsible Tourism Society of India's maiden webinar. This is Shobha Mohan, a proud member of the Governing Council of RTSOI. This is a conversation no industry can afford to ignore anymore. The importance of sustainability as a forward strategy. The numbers tuned in and the registrations that have come in is testimony to the assurance of the awareness of responsible tourism in the industry. Let me begin by introducing you to Dr. Anjuna Dheer, the Executive Director of Responsible Tourism Society of India and the co-host for this webinar. Hello, Anjuna.
Hi, Shubha.
Hi, thank you. The format of the webinar is as follows. Anjuna will take over from me to introduce you to the theme and RTSOI and also to our member panelists. This will be followed by a keynote address by the President, RTSOI, Mr. Rakesh Mathur. Post this is the conversation between our inspiring panelists. Question and answers, in case you have any, and I hope that you'll keep them coming, will be posted on the chat and we will pick it up to be answered by the panelists. You can also recommend who you're addressing the question to. A few housekeeping rules for a smooth flow of the webinar so that our audio is clean and clear. I request all of you to stay muted. All questions should go into the chat box. And in case any of you has to leave this webinar midway, please note there will be a recording that can be shared with you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Anjuna.
Good morning, all. I'm Anjuna Dheer. I welcome you all to a very interesting and timely deliberation on responsible tourism and how business choices involving responsible tourism can be a better revival strategy in the post-COVID-19 world. The session is brought to you by Responsible Tourism Society of India, that was earlier known as Eco-Tourism Society of India. We were formed in 2008 and our decade-long journey has been interesting to say the very least. We've had an amazing team of practitioners who've joined us on the way. Some of them formed the panel today, others are with us in the Zoom session. Our panelists joining us for today are Mr. Jose Dominic from CGH Earth Experiential Hotels. He's a founding member and member governing council at RTSOI. Joining us from Cochin, Mr. Mandeep Singh Soin from IBEX.
Anjuna,
you've muted yourself.
Anjuna, you muted yourself. You'll have to go back on that again.
You have to go back.
Okay, I didn't realize I've muted myself. Good morning, all. I'm Anjuna Dheer. I welcome you all to a very interesting and timely deliberation on responsible tourism and how business choices involving responsible tourism can be a better revival strategy in the post-COVID-19 world. The session comes to you from Responsible Tourism Society of India, that was earlier known as Eco-Tourism Society of India. We have an amazing team of practitioners who've joined us on the way since we started in 2008. Some of them are with us in the panel. Our main panelists today are Mr. Jose Dominic from CGH Earth Experiential Hotels. He's also a founding member and member governing council RTSOI. He's joining us from Cochin. Our second panelist for the day is Mr. Mandeep Singh Soin from IBEX Expeditions. He's a founder, president, and member governing council, Responsible Tourism Society of India. He's joining us from somewhere deep in Himalayas. Mr. Rohit Kohli from Creative Travels and Jungle Sutra, Vice President RTSOI from Gurgaon. Ms. Mridula Tangirala from Tata Trust. She's Secretary, Responsible Tourism Society of India. She's joining us today as well. I invite Mr. Rakesh Mathur, President, Responsible Tourism Society of India, who shall introduce RTSOI to us and lead us through the evolution of ESOI to RTSOI. Mr. Mathur, over to you.
Thank you, Anjuna. Good morning, industry friends and colleagues. Eid Mubarak, and thank you very much for all being here. Virtually every association, every organization is represented here today, and I'm extremely privileged to have amongst us Mrs. Rupinder Brar, our Additional Director General Tourism, along with our mentors, honorary members, His Highness Maharaja Gat Singh Ji, Mr. MP Bez Barwa, Mr. Sujit Banerjee, Mr. Vinod Zutshi, Mr. H.S. Pabla, Mr. Sheel Bhadra Banerjee, who is also a mentor honorary member, could not be here due to some other commitment. I'm also very privileged to have a team of dedicated co-founders and board of governors and my colleague office bearers, Ms. Seema Bhatt, Mr. Rohit Kohli, Ms. Mridula Tangirala, Mr. Anirudh Chowji, our executive director, Dr. Anjana Dheer, and our colleague, Mr. Sanjay Ahirwal. And I am absolutely grateful to Ms. Shobha Mohan, Akanksha Garg, and Mr. Varun Mathur for having organized this fabulous session. Ladies and gentlemen, our journey started in 2008 when some of us who were engaged in tourism in sensitive, fragile, and rural areas and nature-based areas, we witnessed a blatant abuse of the environment, both by service providers as well as by tourists. Service providers, especially in the unorganized sector. With this in mind, and the desire to do something urgently about it, some of us went and met the then tourism minister, Shrimati Ambika Soni, and discussed the issue with her. She opined that we must go and establish the Ecotourism Society of India to carry out this initiative, and the ministry will give us complete support in this. And thus was born the Ecotourism Society of India. Some of our objectives, there are many, but some of our main objectives are: number one, to educate in conservation, pollution, etc., to do workshops, to create awareness and sensitize tourism service providers, to exchange best practices, to be a think tank and a watchdog perhaps, to be a repository of information, to do tabulation and research, to do projects like carrying capacity, etc., to see how we can benefit, how tourism practices can benefit local communities. Plus, there are many others. So there is a lot of value that can be seen that the Ecotourism Society has been adding and can add to the industry. What we achieved in the last few years, 12 years since we were formed, we've done about 20 workshops in 13 states. We've conducted 2 ecotourism conclaves, one of which led to the formation of the ecotourism policy in Manipur. We evolved with the Ministry of Tourism and with other industry colleagues the Sustainable Tourism Criteria of India, which has been adopted and is awaiting the process of certification. We laid out the code for safe and honorable tourism and the pledge for sustainable tourism. We conducted a very interesting study in the Chambal Wildlife Forest by tabulating the wildlife in the Chambal River and many other such activities. So there is a lot that can be achieved and that can be done through the expertise that is available to the Ecotourism Society. I have only one small regret. To my mind, the industry support has not been 100% the way that we expected it to be. Several times I was asked the question that we will become members, but what do we get in return? Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is about payback to the industry. This is about contributing to the industry to do initiatives which are now absolutely necessary as far as sustainability in tourism is concerned. It is not an association. Ours is a society which contributes to the industry. The gains are long-term and they cannot be short-term gains. There have now been 2 significant developments. Number one, we have been renamed the Responsible Tourism Society of India. This enlarges our canvas to include many other initiatives rather than just the environment. It includes community development, safe and honorable tourism, etc. And the second thing that happened is the current crisis, which stresses the need for responsible, sustainable practices further. Ladies and gentlemen, sustenance is long-term, and not long-term, it has to be perpetual. It cannot be for short-term gains. It cannot be, it is for our children. Therefore, in my opinion, this is non-negotiable. I seek the support of the industry by becoming members. I wish to bridge the gap between the industry and what the ecotourism society or what the responsible tourism society can do, for it is very, very important for our collective survival. With these few words, I'd like to invite our mentor and honorary member, President of the Indian Heritage Hotels Association, Maharaja Gat Singh Ji, to kindly say a few words.
Sorry, I was on mute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Babji, we can hear you.
You can. Oh, good.
Yes.
Very good. Members of the tourism and hospitality industry, it's a pleasure to meet you. We are in very strange times and very critical times, not only for the entire world, but for the tourism industry in India. It is an environment that has been created by something that was completely unmanageable. However, we must not give up. We must persevere and to play in the revival of India's economy. As Rakesh has said, we are disappointed with the responses of the government, but I think we can still work on our state government and try and get some decisions from there. However, we have to fight this battle on our own, and we must do it. I'm glad that the society changed name and included tourism as well, and responsible tourism. I've been associated for quite some time, not only with Rakesh, but with the society. We have a very dedicated team. However, we must all pull together, and I think the tourism industry must also come forward and join in this our crusade for the environment of India, the environment-friendly India. Create areas where people have faith and confidence. That is going to be the next level, to go to judge us by not so much anything else, but how safe we are, how hygienic we are, and environment is to be future. When you say, what do we get? If we have some where I think even if you could grade properties and give them a grading, environmental grading, that gives them a very good standing in the world of tourism. The domestic tourism is going to come first, and international tourism will wait for a long time. But still, I think people will look for environmentally destinations which are clean, which are safe, and which are socially responsible and connected with the environment around them. We also have responsibility to the environment around us, and we have to play a very positive leading role in that. And I think the society is doing a very good job. We all work together, and I urge the industry to join in this crusade. In India, things are moving very fast. Some of the things are moving in the very wrong directions, and we have to not only prevent those things, we have to improve ourselves and lead by example. Thanks for being here today, and thank
Okay, Shobha, I think you should take over.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Babji. Thank you for those wonderful words of inspiration. Something came up in one of the WhatsApp messages in the morning today by a favorite motivational speaker of mine. It said there are only two ways to influence human behavior. One of them is to manipulate them, and the other is, of course, to inspire them. And the panelists who Anjana had introduced to you are a group of inspiring people, and we begin our conversation with them. So Rohit, we begin with you. It's always been amazing how large companies can actually weave in ideas of responsible tourism, not only in their operations, but also by inspiring their team members. Given the situation we are in, where, I mean, there is so much talk about post COVID-19 world, how important do you think responsible tourism would mean to the industry and to you in particular?
So thank you, Shobha. And I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar. I feel now more than ever, we need to be responsible as an industry, as human beings. And really, it's about the good of all of us that has to manifest now into our actions. Responsible tourism is actually being defined as making a better place for people to live in, and also making a better place for people to travel to and to visit. Responsible tourism is a lot more than just being environmentally friendly. Responsible tourism must encompass the whole spectrum of travelers' experience to a destination. And also, let me be very clear. Responsible tourism really requires all verticals of the industry, whether it's tour operators, hoteliers, governments, the local population, and most importantly, the travelers, to make better and more responsible choices going forward. And even if one of these components don't step up, it's not going to work. This is some game for all of us to be involved in. But to your question, Shobha, in the post-COVID world, I truly believe that businesses around the world are going to be very conscious of their obligations. They are not going to go back to business as usual for a very long time. And travelers and travel companies, organizations will have to start demanding the whole supply chain do a few very important things and few very important actions. Part of this is, for example, increasing your positive social and environmental impact. That's very, very important. We must, as an industry, provide economic benefits to local communities and provide positive contribution to the natural cultural heritage. I'm not just talking about Indian context. I'm talking about in the whole world, even for the outbound business. And it's also incumbent on all of us to really provide more authentic experiences for travelers with more meaningful connections with local communities. I think really, if any organization at this time doesn't step up and smell the coffee, they need to stop right now, take a pause, and understand the importance of being responsible. These companies will lose out in the long term. And I'm very, very confident of this. This is just something you can't switch on. You can't just switch this on overnight. Okay? You have to be responsible. Being responsible takes courage. Being responsible takes conviction. Being responsible takes leadership. And it has to be part of the DNA of every organization. It doesn't only be large organizations, Shobha. Any organization of any size, even if it's a one-man outfit, being responsible is a choice. It has to be part of the DNA, and that choice has to be made now, starting right now. Thank you.
Jose, hello. Jose, you have CGH experiences has been a pioneer in where sustainable and responsible tourism has been concerned, and you've kind of taken it into different areas: community, local impact, food from a 50-mile radius. All these things have been included in what you promote as CGH experiences. One of the things that keeps coming up in our conversation is that is environment sustainability going to be a luxury in a post-COVID world when we are already struggling for businesses?
Thank you, Shobha. And continuing from where Rohit ended, let me take it forward. I'm now sitting in Cochin, in Kerala. I'm thankful to be here because I think this is the safest place in the world when the COVID times to sit. Thanks to the phenomenal work that we've seen happening here. And I'm connecting this, how governments, and enterprises have to join hands. So in CGH Earth, or the definition of responsible tourism, I would say, a great place to live in is a great place to visit. So from a government point of view, from a society point of view, all that we desire is to live in a great place. And that gives us a powerful enabling ability to be successful in attracting, to be in business. So we had, and then you take the Kerala example of started late, but became known for what? Known for that the everyday is magic and that the ordinary is extraordinary. So that from that we can make a great living. So my point here is that responsible tourism is not a choice, that it is the future of all tourism. And especially so now in the time of the COVID. So today, our topic is choices. I see that topic is wrong. It is not choices. This is the only way we can go forward. How we can combine being safe to the traveler and yet being safe to the planet and to serve community. All these three things have to be there and yet be profitable to the enterprise. I think this is the lesson that we have learned. And when you look at the current scenario, we are now faced with a completely new, what I would call, what we had is BC, before COVID. Now we are now facing the AC after COVID. A completely new normal, where the standards of the past no longer applicable. Whether it's government or enterprise or customer, the demands, I think it's ridiculous to expect that a virus has come to clean up the world. It is our job, whether we are a consumer, whether a provider or a stakeholder, that there's no other choice. And I don't know whether I'm answering the question, but I think it's a very, very sure, strong, actionable way that we have to go forward. No postponing, no procrastinating. We have little time, and the time for that is now. And I think as using responsible tourism, COVID-safe tourism, engaging, transforming experience tourism, all of this comes together. From that, we can create a meaningful business, a meaningful, profitable business, sustainable environments, as well as the communities which will benefit. And finally, I would just say, we are in it for business. And this is then to be in business is no longer, it's just about personal gain, that the community's gain is as important as the personal gain.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jose. Thank you for that. Mridula, we've seen a lot of your work where host and communities are concerned. However, I mean, and there are questions to this effect coming up on our chat box, that will the responsibility to environment and protecting the planet, etc., take a back seat while we are all trying to, rejig our business? And especially where, and I always believe that the benefits of tourism should ultimately rest with the community. So how would you encourage tour operators to make this as a mandate for their businesses? Mridula, you're muted.
Thank you, Shobha. So if the question is, should we be taking care of our planet now? Well, I reckon, given it's the only one we've got, we should, right? But I understand why you're asking this. And, we all hear that, can we take short-term pain for the long-term gain? And I think this gets asked when there are three things that are not in place. Because in our normal lives, we are all very used to, sacrificing a short-term for securing our long-term. We do that routinely. Why is this getting asked here? So I think the three disruptors to that equation usually are, when you are in a survival mode, or you think it's a losing battle anyway, why do it? or what's called tragedy of commons, you know, everybody's responsibilities, nobody's responsibility kind of. So let's look at this scenario. Are we in survival mode right now? And I'm sure a whole lot of us would say a resounding yes, you know, our businesses are under stress, our cash flows are under stress, you know, it is a survival mode. And so I would just say this, that, you know, I've always found, and ever since I crossed over from industry to Tata Trust, I've found very inspiring stories from the communities. So how do you, when I see, for example, that a poor community, it's perpetually in a survival mode, you know, they arrange themselves, they come together such that, for example, a village common land, a pasture land is protected and nurtured such that everybody would later have fodder in a time of drought or during summertime. How do they manage to do that, you know, given all the adversity? And those three problems only will throw the solution, which is, how do you get out of the survival mode? You get out of it by creating a network. The strength in numbers, we can all align. We can make every small act count. And by building dialogue, trust, accountability, you know, it's possible to get out of survival mode and take care of long-term as well as short.
Thank you, Mridula. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great insight into how tourism should be looking. Mandy, this is for you, and I hope you can unmute yourself. You straddle, you know, you wear several hats and also straddle various types of travel. There's adventure, there's luxury, there's safaris. The conversation always goes back to how do you balance, you know, what is the balancing act of being sustainable as well as making money? Because usually people think if it's sustainability, there is it has to be cheap, basic, you know, which is not true, right? Sustainability is an expensive business. Also, it can be you kind of rework the whole idea of luxury when you talk about sustainability.
Yeah, thanks, Shobha. I think I just want to ping back to Rohit's point about smelling the coffee. And I think from the sounds of it, looks like we'll have to gather an awful lot of coffee beans to get that going for our industry and government and so on. But I'm glad in some sort we are on the same page. And I think the first myth I want to dispel, because I've been in business for 41 years now. And, you know, I come from a climbing and a exploring background. And like you said, how do you manage to kind of keep responsible travel in the midst of it and yet make money? I think the old adage is good environment sense is good business sense. And even if sometimes you invest or you have to take some actions that might seem more expensive in the beginning, at the end, you are always going to make much more money and have more profit. So it's actually, you know, for example, if you switch from, like we did in our treks, we switched from, of course, kerosene to gas and then to solar. And what lantern, a gas lantern or a kerosene lantern, which was 75 rupees, cost me about 500 when I went to solar. But you know, the longevity of the solar was longer, the people were happier. So we had a, you know, overall win. And I think that's kind of important to recognize that a lot of the companies that have done sustainable businesses are the ones that have a huge following and a loyal customer base. That is from the business side. But of course, your heart as well tells you that, you know, it's been alluded to, again, what we've been through right now. And I think you've got to have possibly a lighter footprint. I mean, when we started, our slug line was, our journeys are dedicated to those travelers who choose to tread lightly. And then we did actions that were kind of fitting in. For example, we got our garbage back from natural areas. We, you know, did a pack in, pack out kind of principle. We camped away from fresh water. So these are very tiny and small actions. But when you replicate them across hundreds and thousands of people who do the same action, if you do it right, then you're saving your destinations. And even as a pure businessman, even if you are not eco at heart or nature lover or whatever, it would tell you that you can't hack the ground that you stand on. So if the product is not kept safe, you're not going to have much to sell. So I would say that there are some mantras that we really need to imbibe in not just the adventure or the general niche markets, but also the greater, larger travel companies and all types of operation, which is one of the reasons why we've now transitioned from the ecotourism society to the responsible travel society to take in all stakeholders and prove that, you can still be rocking, still feel good as a human being, still make a lot of profit as a company, and it's a win-win.
Anjana, Rupinder ma'am wants to say a few words before, because she has to set off for another meeting.
Yes.
Can we, she's on video. Can we get her to?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hello.
Minister.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. Yeah.
Hi, Anjana.
Hi, Ravinda
Shobha,
madam.
and all my co-panelists. It's always a pleasure to hear all of you. And also, of course, grim times, and absolutely can therefore understand and feel for the entire sense of despondency, that is there. But having said that, I would also say that there is so much to look forward to and to find opportunities out of the situation that we have all been thrown into. It's not going to be easy. It is challenging, but it also gives us an opportunity to reboot and rethink, and on the whole issue of sustainability and how to be responsibly sustainable or how to be sustainably responsible. I think the two need to weave into each other as we go forward. In fact, I think one of the happy things to note in India, or perhaps even globally, was that the world was moving towards understanding that the human footprint that is increasing on Mother Earth is not something which is sustainable and is not something that can carry on forever. And if I may say so, the cyclone Amphan and the processes of the nature are there to remind us in many ways that we've been misusing Mother Earth in so many ways. And so coming back, therefore, to the role of sustainable tourism or being responsible in tourism, I think sustainable is just one component of being responsible. And how to take that whole narrative forward is critical for us, not only from the sector point of view, but from the whole existential point of view. And I'm therefore so glad that you're all sitting together, all of your experts. Mandeep ji said he's been in industry for working on these issues for more than 40 years. And I can see all of you have so much experience behind you. So I'm going to stay logged in and I'm going to try and hear out as much as I can while, joining another webinar on my other screen. But all the best to all of you. In terms of what we can do from the ministry, I can only say that don't lose hope on us. And we are trying to do a lot of work on promotional campaigns. And some of the webinars that I started doing on the 14th of April, I try and talk about sustainability and I try and talk about responsible tourism in one way or the other as we go along. And being responsible, therefore, also means including the communities at the grassroots in a big way and creating a voice for those unheard components of human life. I wouldn't even restrict it to just tourism. And how to create the local narrative and how to showcase the local arts and crafts and cuisine and create employability at a very widespread level itself is a huge defining moment for responsible tourism. So I hope that we can work together. And I would be very happy. Shobha, of course, has already done a session with us on one of the webinars. And I'd be very happy if any of you can volunteer to work with us on these webinars and carry the message of what is responsible tourism. I'm also hoping to create and craft a few webinars with your support on the whole issue of capacity building as we move forward as an industry. So it would be, very, very useful and rewarding for us, because my voice is not the voice that is relevant. I should say that I am more like a sutradhar who brings the various components of the industry together. So please feel not only free, but I would rather nudge you and poke you all individually and collectively to help us to craft some webinars wherein we carry the voice from both the user point of view as a tourist and also the provider point of view, that people who are engaged in the industry of tourism, how can they create employability for themselves while carrying the whole narrative of responsibility and sustainability along. So those were just some of my thoughts. I'm once again, thanks to Shobha and thanks to Anjuna for allowing me the opportunity of connecting with all of you. And I hope that I'm going to keep hearing from all of you. Mr. Kohli, of course, is also an avid, I should say, a positive critic in so many ways. And we need people like you, because we need to break out of our inertia. We need to break out of our assumed ways of doing things. And I'd be very happy if you guys could connect with us and with me specifically in how we carry the message of promotion forward, both within India and out of it. So once again, thanks a ton, and all the best to all of you, and also Eid Mubarak. We are meeting on a good day. So have a good Eid and take care of yourselves.
Just
Thank you, Ms. Raj.
a quick one. The wrong brother, Mrs. Brar. That was not me. That was, I think you're referring to my brother. But yeah, but I'm sure he's somewhere listening to this right now.
I'm sure you'll pass the message to him. The idea behind reminding, I've had long conversations with Rajiv, and I must say that he comes up with really, really good contributions. And the pamphlet that he's made is a fantastic one, and that's the way forward as far as we can see India and pitching India as a beautiful product to the world.
Mrs.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before we lose you, can I just jump in for one crucial point?
And you're not going to lose me, so not to worry.
If you're going to be here through the webinar, then we have one specific question about a responsible traveler campaign. So should we come back to you at that point, or if you're likely to be locked out somewhere, then I can address it now.
Why don't you go ahead and mention it?
Okay. So the idea is that we are all very clear that what we need to do with you all is to create a national campaign on sensitizing a responsible traveler, on how do you become a responsible traveler. And we've got a set of guidelines, and we can, obviously share that with you. But our hope was that the ministry would carry it forward, because I think given the fact that the ministry and the industry feels that we need to target domestic travel first, and that'll be the first kid off the block, then perhaps we need to really, really sensitize our domestic travelers. And also, if we are going to capture the guys who go out and their numbers are in a few million, and then we get them in, we want to make sure that there's no stress of over-tourism. We want to make sure that they do it respectfully. So if we can, craft a campaign with you all, that'll be music to both, our ears, and I'm sure to everyone else.
Mandy, very valuable suggestion. And I would say, can we start work on it today?
Immediately after the webinar.
Action we love. Yeah,
send in your, because actually we don't have time to lose. You're so right. As we are already opening up, the first flights have taken off today. Road travel, at least intrastate, is nimble steps. People are anxious as to what's going to happen, but soon we shall be back to normal. It's a matter of a few weeks perhaps. And so we must have a very, very robust campaign in place so that we don't lose, I would say, the gains of this period, because I think the 8-9 weeks that have gone by in many ways have reminded all of us that what is it that we were not doing so right. And so without losing steam on that sensitivity and that little feeling of nostalgia or deja vu that most of us are experiencing in our homes and cities, we must capture that. So I'd be very happy if we can organize a small group. You can send me mailers, you want to connect on phone. My only problem sometimes is that in the day, on a weekday, it's hard. And so that's why I said today is the right test day. It's a holiday. So one is totally yours.
Thank you. This is
So,
great.
please go ahead and send in your suggestions. We'll be very, very happy to receive them.
Thank you. Great.
Ms. Brar, if I may just intervene, tied up to Mandy's suggestion is another thought which is very important along with the campaign, and that is to create a list of do's and don'ts for every important destination. And we've seen these lists in many parts of the world in order to protect destinations from being vandalized. And of course, the second thing would be, education to the traveler. Now, of course, this is a very long discussion, which we'll have with you separately, but thank you very much for, giving us the incentive to start today itself. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Rakeshji. In fact, why I am saying today, because these are the thoughts in the ministry. We've already drafted according to our understanding and some inputs that we got from other stakeholders as to what should be the do's and don'ts from both sides. As I said, the traveler as well as the provider. So we're working on that. And we are also trying to develop some thumb stoppers and some 30-seconders and 1-minuters to push the campaign in the social media and also to work through various other platforms. And that's why no time to lose. We're very, very happy to get very quick suggestions and real-time inputs on what is the narrative and what is it that will kind of, resonate with the people, because you don't want to, especially in tourism, while you want to bring in the whole element of being responsible, but at the same time, you don't want to make it it's so difficult for people to travel, where it becomes a deterrent and you say, "Arey yaar, chodo, jaane ki zarurat nahi hai, ye to bahut hi tough ho gaya," So finding that right balance as to how to generate the responsible narrative and yet make it a habit over a period of time and yet not a deterrent to travel. So as I said, and I'm repeating it, that because we're already working on it, we have no time to lose. And so please send in your mailers even today. I'd be very happy to go through them.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Viraj. No time to lose. A singular message. And I think we've already achieved the purpose of the webinar today. The main purpose was to get everybody to subscribe to the Responsible Tourism View. So thank you, Mandy, and thank you, Rakeshji, for this. We will, of course, touch base with Ms. Viraj again offline. Coming back to our questions and panelists, Rohit, this question is for you. Responsible tourism is a choice, and post-COVID-19, we need to practically reinvent our businesses. What do you think are the top 3 suggestions you would like to make for responsible operations for your sector?
So Anjana, I think we all need to realize one thing, and the sooner we realize this, I think the better we will all be off. Is that India is a long way off from becoming a responsible tourism destination. And as Mandy just alluded to with Mrs. Brar, Indians are a long way off from becoming responsible travelers within India and to other countries as well. Having said that, there's already a lot of movement. That's the good news. That there's a lot of movement has begun on this. Many great companies, many of whom are present here right now, have done a lot of very good work towards being responsible tourism, towards being responsible. And I have lots of points, but I think if you ask me for top 3, I think the first one, I think the most important one we all need to address is reduce waste. I think we as an industry, again, all verticals, and I'm addressing all verticals, tour operators, hoteliers, destinations, governments, local governments, and the traveler. Most importantly is the traveler. Reduce waste. We need to avoid all single-use plastic products in all our trips. This is the world's biggest concern right now, and it's going to be a bigger concern in the future. Tourism is unfortunately one of the largest waste-generating industries in the world. But together, if we all get together, we can really change it. Secondly, I would say, we have a tendency in India and in many other countries to have a lot of hands-on animal interactions. And I think really hands-on animal interaction is something we need to really take out of our trips. Because, we can all sit and say, these animals are bred for tourism, blah, blah, blah. There's livelihoods attached. There are many industries that have come and gone in the world. Avoid elephant rides in Jaipur. We have taken out all our elephant rides in Jaipur from all our trips, period. Okay, no more camel rides in Cairo for the outbound world. Because animals bred for tourism is as good at encouraging cruelty to animals in the long term. And I think for me, the most important aspect, and I think something that is most actionable for everyone in the industry right now, is to support a community. Pick any damn community project that supports, lives of local community. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the project is. Just pick one and get behind it all the way. If you're an inbound operator, pick one in the area where most of your guests travel to. If you're an outbound operator, ask every DMC of yours in every destination to include one community project in every trip and for every guest of yours. Because if everyone starts doing small things right now, we need to take small steps. This is going to make a huge impact in the long term for all of us. I think these are really my top 3 agenda points for being responsible. And I think everyone who's here right now in the audience can start with these steps very easily without worrying about how it's going to impact their bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. Very relevant points. Reduce waste, support community, and keep your hands off animals. And this brings me to the next question, which I have from Mridula. Mridula, homestays and community-based tourism is essentially a small business enterprise affected very badly post-COVID. What are the 3 main suggestions that you would like to make for this sector to revive?
Thank you, Anjana. I would like to quote Joe's, what he said a little while ago, and beautifully sums up. He said, a great place to live in is a great place to visit. And it's more true in case of community-based tourism or homestays than anyone else. So I think communities have to start being a little more proud of what they've got. And stop constantly only looking at the tourists and say, what do they want? Because if you do that too much, then you end up with a string of Maggie shops in Uttarakhand, a state that is a legacy of wild food and minor millets and all those things that are now being called superfoods foods by the West, and now it's slowly coming to India as well. But those were the heritage that communities had, and then in our bit to chase the customer, perhaps we've lost it somewhere. So dig deep in the time of crisis, perhaps going inward is the best thing we can do, and create beautiful experiential products out of it. Experiences that are deeply rooted with what you do for yourself to make your life better, and that also includes tourism. And I would like to link it to what Rohit very rightly said, that there's a lot that can be done between communities and the industry. And it has to go beyond that bullock cart ride or just one recipe. There's so much unique experience that a business can build with a community. And that will bring you the customer, because it will be like nowhere else in the world. And the third thing I would say is that it was so refreshing to hear Rupinderji speak about that as well. Lot of governments, state governments have looked at homestays and community-based stays, but I think they also somewhere missed the point that it's about the whole collaborative effort about the destination. It's not only about taking one entrepreneur and helping them create one homestay. It's about helping the community to live better and optimize all their resources. So how a one panchayat, for example, and that example, some people have done that and done that beautifully. How a patch of forest got protected by the one panchayat, and that becomes the backdrop for the tourism products that community then can offer to the tourists. So I think these are the 3 things that that we have to do better, go deep within, create deeper experiences.
Thank you, Mridula. Thank you. The solutions and the top 3 suggestions that you made is respect communities. That's first thing. And then work with them more. And also make them respect themselves, make them proud of themselves. And probably, begin using what they have to offer in more realistic manner than, giving them a superficial angle to it, just more than just a voice message. Thank you. Mandy, my next question is for you. You operate in adventure, luxury, safari-based tourism space, especially in eco-sensitive zones. And different people have different views on what is the right approach here. You've been around for quite some time. What are the top 3 suggestions you would like to make for making this place safe, sustainable, responsible?
Anjuna, I think over the last so many decades, I've seen that there are some fantastic companies doing some amazing work in India and around the globe. I've been lucky to be a judge at international awards, so I know the potential of tourism is fabulous, but it is still a thin slice of people. We need to broad stream it. So my top 3 would be really first getting involved with it physically, emotionally, and as a business to say, how do we start our journey on responsible and sustainable travel? The old mantra, reduce, recycle, reuse, is a good one to start with. And I think if you think hard, any business looks for a higher purpose. And what is that higher purpose for you as a tourism business is what you need to strike at. You could help communities, you could help physical environment, you could help wildlife. So there's a plethora of stuff because tourism is a really powerful tool. And I think if you use that, that's the top thing to start with. The second thing, which is slightly controversial, is that we tend as travelers and as the industry to try and promote very well-known destinations. We need to swing away from this and start promoting destinations that are less known, but are equally or sometimes even more beautiful and experiential than the ones that we've been promoting. And so this way, it will also take the pressure off the destinations and, avoid over-tourism. And my final point would be that, yes, to start that journey, become a member of RTSOI, get all the knowledge, because for us, for every 2 promotions we did through our careers of marketing, we took 1 educational eco-environmental conference to learn. And I think that is important. And like Rohit said, and Mridula mentioned, we must align ourselves with a NGO. In fact, our society brought out this book, which is the 4th edition of the Ecotourism and Environment Handbook. And in this, we have a list of 40 certified, checked out non-governmental organizations. So you can hitch your horse or your cart to any of these. And so basically, for every tourist you handle or every trip you do, if a part of the revenue goes to something good, apart from CSR, which is obligatory for the larger companies, I think we are all doing excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. So your 3 points are, number 1, join the cause, join the movement. Let's make it stronger. Let's make it bigger, because responsible tourism is for everybody. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is spread it wide, spread the cause of responsible tourism and spread tourism wide, far and wide, so that more people can benefit out of the business of tourism. And the third most important point is the most relevant: reduce, recycle, reuse. Thank you very much. And this brings me to Jose. Jose, you've been a very vocal practitioner of responsible tourism and reduce, reuse, and recycle. Now, when I look at post-COVID situation, there are hygiene protocols everywhere and guidelines everywhere, and everything involves single-use gloves, masks, plastic, etc., etc. We've become a germophobic world today. So in this germophobic post-COVID-19 world, do you think travel will throw up a lot more waste? And how do we tackle this?
Anjuna, let me try and answer this question in the time I have. First and foremost, we are now discussing responsible tourism in the time of the COVID. And these are, as Mrs. Bra said, these are grim times. But it's also time in which I think the opportunity that this gives is that even a calamity has uses. Why I say so is that BC, when BC is before COVID, in the 60 or 40 years that we've been practicing, generally I think we have, I would say, our record of success has been very, very poor. And the word Jagannath temple in Odisha, the Sun temple, gave the word to the English dictionary, Juggernaut. And it is often said, go there before the tourist goes. Before the juggernaut of tourism gets there and smashes everything in its wake, be there. This is a reality in BC. That's the hard reality. Now, with the COVID now, we have no other choice to change the reality. So this is when I think we should use the calamity use the calamity. Now we are seeing regulations can put in place. More than that, I would say just that from a tourism point of view, what is the future? It's bleak. From where we would say, it is said, in fact, the other day at the webinar, we said that first hit, worst hit, and longest hit is tourism. Literally, we have been pushed off the cliff. It's zero. The prospects look very, very grim indeed. Now, in such a situation, what are your choices? And I think, therefore, I'm coming back to foreign tourism is not going to happen for a long time. Even domestic tourism, I don't know whether, even though flights are going to start from tomorrow, whether we will, the 4 hours before the flight, do a mask, do all kinds of things, can't use the toilet, no meals on board, who's going to travel? And even if it slightly eases, the motivation to travel and now will have to be extraordinarily strong. And therefore, in fact, in our enterprise, we've been looking at what prospects, how do we survive, and in this time, is that we have relook at tourism itself. I live in Cochin, and we said we must offer Cochin to Kochiites. So they've been there many times. They would have gone to, for example, in the Jew town, they've been and seen fish nets, or in Kochi itself. Now, so when you offer your local destinations, local people, then you have to do a deep dive. It's not enough to skirmish or to just flitter around it. So this is the new attitude that tourism requires. It's like in Ayurveda. Each person is separate, individual. It's a very personal experience. And that deep dive would mean you have to go look at holistically, go down to what will inspire the person. So therefore, I think the new capacity that we have learned is how to relook at every destination, relook at every customer. That every customer is different. It's not that you cannot have a universal policy. You can't. But what is common is everybody will want the responsibility towards the environment, towards society, and at the same time, he wants to have a great time. And I give an example of many years ago. I attended a workshop in Kabini by Dr. Peter Adderhold, and he introduced 2 terms. One term was the alert independent traveler. The other term was sun, sand, surf traveler. 2 different types of travelers. Who was sun, sand, surf? He was one who looked at 27 degrees Celsius water, great sand, great hotel with a magnificent view, most fabulous experience. Nothing else is important to him. And he had no uncertainties at all. On the other side, the alert independent traveler, for him, is the voyage of discovery. He was concerned about what's the unexpected. He's expecting the sense of adventure and the unexpected, and what else? How people lived, democracy, human rights, all those things became important to him. 2 different types of people. I think more and more we now have to look at tourism in the light of the AIT, and that is the new that we have to look forward to. And therefore, when you look at the AIT, then you will take yourself in the here and the now, the current realities of how the COVID regulations will come in. And then when he comes into hotel, he'll have the sanitation. He has subjected to so many things, and this is not going to go very quickly. I don't think that it'll be too wishful thinking to say that 6 months, 18 months from now, a vaccine will be discovered. We go on the basis that it's going to be with us for a long, long time. Yet we want to be in this business and survive in this business. And therefore, what are the new elements that we will look at? we must enjoy doing it, enjoy traveling, enjoy being a provider. At the same time, our responsibility is now shifted from the traveler in the first instance to local inhabitants, and our duty to our staff. We cannot ever put them into risk. So we are now looking at a new way of travel and tourism, of new way of enterprise and business, and this is the new normal that AC will come. AC would mean after the COVID. So much to be learned, and today we are only pointing directions of the learning that we have. And I'm sure in RTSOI, this is a long thing, much to do. Like being a group of advocacy, like asking tourism department to come out with do's and don'ts. We've heard of so many do's and don'ts. I've not seen a place where there's no list of do's and don'ts. I often see that people do what they're told not to do. So, but therefore, the new tack that we have to do, that we have little thought anymore. This is where the calamities come to great use. We have to use it and use it to good stead. I don't know where my time is up, but
so as they say, Jose, what you're trying to say is, as they say, let's not waste a good crisis. Let's get something out of it, something useful out of it. And the other points that Jose said was, relook at Aspas tourism. Let's relook at the neighborhood and deep dive into everything. Enough of superficial experiences. Thank you, Jose. Thank you very much for your comments. And topmost, of course, RT practices, responsible tourism practices have to be the topmost. Every other guideline has to be, under the responsible tourism guidelines. Thank you so much. Shobha, over to you.
Anjana, there are a lot of questions about the consumer question that we had, which is from the viewers, and also Mandy touched upon it. I recommend that you take the last question, and then we'll go over to the question and answers. It'll save some time as well.
Right. Okay. So my question goes to Rohit now. Rohit? So what does being a member of RTSOI mean to you as a business person, as well as how has it enriched your practices?
So Anjana, I think the main reason I joined RTSOI because I have a personal passion for being responsible. It's a choice. This was not a business decision, and I believe if someone has a heart, they have the ability to be responsible, in life, and of course in our industry for the business. RTSOI is founded by a group of very highly passionate people, and these individuals rose above their personal obligations and really wanted to do good. And I think I have a lot of respect for the philosophy behind RTSOI. I think also, and one of the reasons I'm honored and humbled to be the vice president. But I think RTSOI also fills a massive gap in the industry today, because there are so many companies that want to be responsible. I was just reading quickly some of the questions and comments, and a lot of the people are asking, how can we be responsible in our business? And they don't know how to start, and that's where RTSOI comes on. RTSOI is on a mission. I think it can help so many companies realize their responsible tourism agendas going forward, and help so many companies, and at the end the traveler on the path of becoming truly responsible. And again, I keep harping on that. It doesn't matter what vertical we are in. It's a hotel, it's a tour operator, it's anyone. I think all segments of the industry can benefit from being part of this movement. RTSOI is not an association, folks. We joke amongst ourselves. We don't call it association. There's going to be no bullshit politics in this body. We are all in it for the greater good. We want everyone to be part of this. This movement has to go on. We don't have a choice, especially in the post-COVID world. And really, for me, that was my main objective of being part of RTSOI, Anjana.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you. This is very inspiring, actually. Mandy, my question is to you. You've been a founder member of ESOI and then RTSOI. Can you give us, you've been practitioner of responsible tourism for quite some time. So give us one incident which has been most fulfilling. I know there have been many, but give us one incident that you think, where you absolutely felt so great, being a practitioner of responsible tourism.
Thank you. Yeah, well, one was just a sort of a flow from a personal sense of fulfillment, which really started way back in '89 when I stood at the Arctic and I took an earth plunge and I said, we will make a difference, not only personal lives, but businesses, and then let it flow to everybody else and take it forward. And in that journey, I realized that, one of the work, the stuff that we, coalesced together as a body was when we went and did a very tiny kind of a workshop in Nagaland. And this was at the back of Kerala's experiment by converting poachers into guides in the Periyar sanctuary. So whilst we were called by the government to do an ecotourism workshop, we got chatting with the local hill person there, the local headman of the village called Konoma. And they were really upset with the government, and they said there's corruption and there's all sorts of, angst in them. And they were killing the Blight's pheasant because all the people there are hunters. And we got together and engaged a very well-known NGO called Equations. And over a period of 2 years of consultation, interaction, and local community support, local government, we basically got the entire community of Konoma to go away from hunting and becoming tourism bird watching guides, so that the pheasants and the tragopans and all of them were saved, and that entire forest was declared as a sanctuary and so on. So that was pretty good. And in fact, leading to from that was a tiny one where we raised the bar, and Rakesh and I went on an expedition down the Chambal River trying to do the same story of getting the dacoits to become river guides, because the river is full of biodiversity. I mean, that's work in progress, but that's the kind of work that you do. It is so rewarding. And I'm sure, like I said, there are some amazing examples of people doing great work, but somehow we've got to try and, scale it up. Thanks.
Thank you. These are fantastic stories, Mandy. I'm sure there have been excellent examples, other examples too. Mridula, somebody who has been around in RT space and CBT, homestays and community-based tourism, what is your expectation of being a part of RTSOI? What is it that you expect from us?
Thank you, Anjana, for asking that. I think what really, how very Mandy's examples elaborates, inspiration is something that we all need by truckloads, and especially the CBT or homestay segment, I feel, which sometimes get completely logged in being the poor man's choice in terms of hospitality, whereas it can just be on the other end of the spectrum in terms of high experiential kind of products. So drawing inspiration, coming together and drawing inspiration for these kind of examples is one thing that I think RTSI can give us. Collaborative problem solving is another, because if you can be in your small box and you can keep optimizing it, but that doesn't change things. So, how do you join hands and do collaborative problem solving? And also perhaps influence the governments together in terms of finding more creative solutions. Forest Rights Act gave communities ownership. They recognize the fact that communities were the owners of these vast tracts of forest that got conserved. But how does that make them a stakeholder, an active stakeholder, and push that kind of an agenda? Now, these are a few things that I think have been lost opportunities that haven't been worked on, and RTSI can be the perfect vehicle to deliver the same.
Thank you, Mridula. Jose has been known to call a spade a spade. So Jose, if I may ask you, what does RTSOI mean to you? How do we strengthen this movement?
No, let me try and answer that question. Why have I joined RTSOI? Have I joined it to give back to society? I don't think so.
Jose, can you kindly look into the camera, Jose? We can't see you clearly.
Okay,
yes.
all right,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Why I would, sorry for that.
Yes, thank you.
Why I joined it to give back to society? I don't think it'll be an honest answer. I've enjoyed doing what I've been doing, and I think that that the principles, I mean, the business to merge into your business the principles of responsible tourism is a way that we should go forward. And more the world should do that. Imagine, it's not, RTSOI, responsible tourism is not a trade secret. I remember, and just go back a few years, in 1988, we won the contract after then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi visited Lakshadweep. We won the contract to run Bangaram Island Resort. And we found ourselves a small organization that suddenly deep in the middle of the ocean. So we ventured into a new tack and said that we'll build a hotel, or not build a hotel, reconstruct that hotel. And the advertised facilities of the hotel was the absence of telephone, television, newspaper, air conditioning, hot water, room service, multi-kitchen, restaurants, swimming pool, all we said, proudly said, all absent. And present was nature and the means to enjoy nature, but with a condition, without in any way causing any diminution to nature. This is the model. We were wondering whether people will come. And we realized suddenly that people came, and the commonest, and we had a price level at that time. The Bangaram Island Resort had a price, 1988 I'm saying, we put the same price as another flagship hotel in India, in Mumbai, with a price of $180. And we had $180 here. And then tour operators, like many on the panel, came and asked us, aghast, how the hell can you put a price like that? We said, why? The people who come to us are staying there on the way. That you've seen the chandelier, you've seen the marble there. What have you got? You got mud and thatch. What we learned in Lakshadweep, in that experience, that the definition of luxury as a new definition, it is not the built ostentation, but it is experience. Like that, then even mud and thatch can be luxurious. Now, into that example, I now bring COVID. So therefore, in RTSOI, I think there is such a great amount of learning that each of us have. We enjoy doing it. And if we are not looking at it from the point of view of the destination, that's the nation, the state, the panchayat, then from the point of view of enterprise, and for ourselves from our own point of view. And I think sharing that, making others join it, think responsible, think India, think Kerala, think CGH would be the way to go. And I think this way we need a champion to further the cause. And why not? Everybody will join the cause. In fact, in our enterprise, which we call CGH Earth, we have a process called CGH. I think it's a cell process. Where did we learn the cell technique from? From the Marxist Party. Marx used to do it, yet the communist cells. And there's another opposite organizer which did that, which is the Catholic Church. They too had cells. So we said we'll form a cell in our organization, not hierarchy, not people who are the GMs or not that. Anyone who's strongly passionate with this became part of that cell. And we found what magic they did. The kind of suggestion that they came in, and it formed a certain kind of guardianship for the brand that we want to hold. Therefore, I think RTSOI should be the guardian for the brand of responsible tourism in the times of the COVID.
Thank you, Jose. Shobha, the passion of our panelists is matched by the passion of our participants. The questions which are flashing, I am not very sure whether we have time to tackle all those. So how do you want to take this?
Mr. Rakesh Mathur had a couple of people he wanted to address. So if that is not it, then we'll go to questions immediately. We'll take up the questions. Sir, Rakesh sir, do you?
You're on mute.
Thank you, Shobha. Thank you, Shobha. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
We can all hear you, yeah.
Yeah. There are a few panelists that I had, but I don't know how much time we have, but I would certainly like to acknowledge. Yeah, tell me.
We have about 15 minutes, which there are a lot of questions to be addressed. Yeah, in all, a lot of questions to be addressed. So, I mean, if you want to highlight a couple of people you want them to say something, would be great.
Okay, I would definitely like to acknowledge we have a lot of senior industry colleagues here. We have our past presidents, Steve Borgi, our president. I think Mr. Pranab Sarkar is here. Mr. Kulbhushan Kachru is here. Ms. Priya Paul said she would be here, but she hasn't. I'm not sure. Mr. Pushpender Bansal is here. Mr. Deepak Deva, Ajit Bajaj. But I think we have time for only very few questions. Can I first? Do I have time to address maybe 5 panelists?
I don't think you'll be able to get 5, Rakesh. So maybe you can do 2, and we can do question and answers, because there's a lot of Q&A on the chat. Right. Yeah, if you don't.
All mind. Right. So we have a guest from SCOL International, Miss Maria Teresa Diaz. Can I ask Miss Maria Teresa Diaz, who has specially joined us? She represents SCOL International. Can I ask her to say a few words?
Yes, please.
Maria, we cannot hear you. Mr. Sanjay Datta from SCOL, would you kindly tell us whether she is online? Okay, there seems to be some technical glitch there.
Yeah.
Can we move on? We have the honor of having Mr. P.D. Rai, who's one of our founder members, and also an honorable member of Parliament.
Mr. Mathur, this is Sanjay Datta.
Can I ask Mr. P.D. Rai to... Sanjay, I had requested Maria to say a few words, but she couldn't come on the line. Would you kindly say something if she's not there?
Maria, are you there? Yeah, can somebody unmute Maria, please, if you don't mind? Maria, if you can come online and say a few words, if you don't mind. Yeah, you have to come on the webinar, Maria, not on the phone. I think Maria has some issues, but Maria is the SCOL International Director for Responsible Tourism, and I would say a few words on responsible tourism in a way because COVID-19 has shown us the way as to what responsible tourism is all about. We have not been abusing the system since last 2.5, 3 months now, and there have been various reports about. First of all, Everest being visible from Kathmandu. Similarly, there have been other issues. So I strongly believe that we are all responsible people. We are educated a lot. We are responsible in our own businesses. Why can't we also be responsible towards the environment for that matter? And I have already promised Mr. Mathur that SCOL Asia, which I'm heading right now, we shall work together, sign an MOU going forward, because responsible tourism is also very close to SCOL, and need of the hour right now is that we all have to join hands. Hand-holding by associations and societies is the call of the day, and we must join hands to take these common causes forward and do whatever best we can. I have a lot of friends here, Mandeep, I can see Rohit, I can see Jose. So my best wishes to you all, and God bless you. Mr. Mathur, we'll work very closely.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Anytime you need my support, I am there for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you, Sanjay. Can I request Mr. P.D. Rai, who's a member of Parliament and also a founder member, to kindly say a few words? We have very little time, so therefore I would request you to be brief and sum up what you feel. Mr. Rai.
Mr. PD Rai. Yeah, he's there on a panel.
Okay,
There's
okay,
Mr. PD Rai.
okay. So, first of all, I've been listening to the entire webinar, and thank you so much to the organizers, and especially to Mandeep and to the president for having me here. Whatever has been said, I think is in total alignment with the need of the hour. And I'm speaking from Sikkim, and Sikkim, like all other mountain states, has seen the devastation of the industry as of now. And everybody is obviously talking about ways to get back, but I think it's going to take it's a very long haul. But in the meanwhile, I think we just need to follow a plan which has been kind of outlined in this particular webinar. And if we are able to see how we can put it all together for the next maybe maybe 1.5 years, in which all stakeholders, all the people who are in the industry can take the necessary steps for both social distancing, for the new kind of paradigm that we need, so that after COVID, the new paradigms that have already been kind of so nicely laid out. And I especially compliment Jose for the kind of thinking that he's doing in this particular direction. So with these words, thank you very much, and all the best to everyone. And I do remember that we all got together here in 2001 to formulate the Ecotourism Society of Sikkim. And at that time, it was the ecotourism that really took off from 2001. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. Now, I had a galaxy of people to give their comments, like Mr. Sudesh Kumar, Mr. Ashish Pukhan, Mr. Vikram Madhok, but I really regret we don't have time. I can see we have very few minutes left. So I would like to throw this open now, while apologizing to my colleagues that I couldn't give an opportunity for them. I would like to throw this open to the House and hand it over back to Anjana and Shobha. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakeshji. There are a lot of questions. I'm going to take some relevant ones. Apologies. We can always take this offline. So Marcus Cotton has a question. How can India and the RTSOI work together with neighboring countries, SAARC, to support and foster regional work to enhance responsible tourism? So would you like to take that on, Mr. Mathur?
Well, I can only say that and I must share with you that for this webinar, I had invited my hotelier colleagues and friends from Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Maldives. I really don't know, I've not seen the latest list who all has come, whether there is anybody present, but certainly I think we all share a common heritage. We all share common I mean, even the tourists who come tend to visit, especially international tourists, tend to visit all these countries. Perhaps, they tie up their itineraries in such a way that they are able to see just more than just one country. So naturally, once we get our own act together, I think it will be a natural progression into working closer with our neighboring countries. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. There is a question from Aditi Chaudhary. Thank you, Aditi, for this. This question is for all the respected panelists. Indian domestic market is dominated by numbers of tourists. Who are of course not all luxury tourists. What is the best strategy to bring this responsible tourism wave into the mass market of the Indian domestic market? Mandy, would you like to take that?
Yeah, if actually I was raising my hand to just buffer the last question with two key points, which is that we actually took part in 2 events, which was trans-boundary cooperation between India, Bhutan, and Nepal to try and save wildlife corridors, which happened in a conference in Bhutan last year. And before that, Rakesh, it may have slipped your mind, we also took part in the SAARC Women's Entrepreneurship kind of a workshop where we are trying to develop an itinerary or ideas of cross flow between the countries. So Marcus is spot on in terms of there will be cooperation, and as we talk to each other within these countries and within our national, ecotourism or responsible tourism sort of association, I think more will flow. Now, coming back to the immediate question,
By Aditi. Okay, I'll say it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, how do we market responsible tourism to the domestic market, which is not always in the luxury segment?
Yeah, well, the part of the answer lies in what you were talking to Mrs. Brar. I mean, we can get a campaign going. I think it's to be able to see innately everybody, even though we give a lot of danda to our own, domestic traveler, and it is true that a lot of them don't really know. The first thing is lack of awareness, and the second thing is there are fairly unruly people also. But innately, I believe everybody wants to feel responsible. Everybody needs to be inspired to say that you're a great traveler. So there can be some strategies that we can develop and make them feel that, their tourism or their travel is actually helping the planet. So I think, again, post-COVID, new realizations, knowing what we've done to the planet, etc. Perhaps we can weave something intelligent so that the responsible traveler, like Mrs. Brar said, it's not a burden, but it's an inspiration to go and travel and be able to contribute positively.
Great.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Mandy.
I just wanted to add one very quickly. I think, it is a very common misconception that responsible tourism is niche or it's expensive. It is not. Responsible tourism, for everyone to understand, is a choice. You can be responsible in any budget. Small actions by even the most budget traveler can go a long way.
Yes,
absolutely. I think this is a common misconception we really need to get rid of.
Absolutely. And that can only happen with tour operators,
Correct.
really endorsing it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we have a question from Runeep Sangha. Thank you, sir, for this. Responsible tourism has to underscore marketability of Incredible India. Stakeholders must be encouraged to demonstrate their role to ensure responsible tourism. Mridula, do you want to take that question?
Sorry, my audio was not that great. Can you just repeat it quickly, please?
Yeah, responsible tourism has to underscore marketability of Incredible India. Stakeholders must be encouraged to demonstrate their role to ensure responsible tourism. I mean, not a lip service, really. I mean, people have to,
Sure. So building on what Mandeep just said, that, it will have to be coming together of governments and businesses coming together, as well as what Jose was saying as well. You have to dig deeper and find things that are relevant to that person who's coming in. Maybe we were oriented in one way to one kind of a customer, but now we have to reorient ourselves with the new normal. So I would say the RTSOI brings that unique platform for such different people to come together, collaborative action only, and a new creative way of thinking only.
So this is a, thank you. Thank you, Mridula. This is a question specifically for Mandy. How do you forecast and plan the business of responsible tourism as an RT operator when there is socio-economic and political uncertainty? Very pertinent, I think, to the times. And this is a question a lot of people have asked on the chat box as well.
Yeah, well, I think obviously it is challenging times. Obviously, we all want business to start. Obviously, we want all the usual things of the business requirements and everything. But I think this is given a great time for a reset button to be pressed for many people. And I think if we can rethink the kind of offering we make to the customer, perhaps we can, kickstart tourism in a slightly different way. Again, many people have alluded to this, maybe more mindful journeys, maybe more, inward journeys, immersive, experiential. So all of these kind of things, if we can recast the kind of a menu of the offerings, perhaps that's one good way forward. And I would say, do not fall in the trap of undercutting. That is a terrible business practice. Of course, we work in capitalist societies. I hope we can become conscious capitalists also. But if you use that thread, maybe the answer lies in us winning again.
Thank you, Mandy. Rohit and I were talking about how we as Indian tour operators, we struggle with marketing value. We struggle with marketing on a value proposition. It's always, then it just comes down to price. There are very few people who can actually market on value. There is a question from Hashim, but what legal framework and infrastructure will be put in place to ensure that the basics of responsible tourism are ensured? Garbage all around our parks has become a menace for wildlife and local population. Joe's legal framework, you've been working with the Kerala government. Would you like to take that on?
Yeah, let me say that legal frameworks do not work. We will park where the no parking sign is. We will throw garbage where it says do not throw it. That's a reality. So from the last 50, 60 years, what have we seen? India is becoming filthier and filthier and filthier. So this framework of the parks is not going to work. So now what the COVID gives us is we have now a new framework. Now I'll just add another part to the question which earlier asked about regional association, regional area. So far our discussion has been so far in BC, competitive advantage. I think that is now gone. Instead of competitive advantage, it is collaborative advantage. So now even now bring that the idea of the legal framework, it is that no one should be allowed, whether tourist or local stakeholder, provider. Now I'm just taking, the question I asked in Cochin today is that, Kochi, I'm just saying that being very, very critical, that it's a mega city. And in this mega city, we have 1 kilometer of sewage line. So I ask, what happens to all this sewage? Nobody answers that question. Therefore, the secret answer is we let it out, it slowly goes into the drain, into the canal, into the backwater, and then out of sight is out of mind. Those things do not work anymore. We have to now make the big hold the cow or the bull by the horn, address it. We are now spending 6,000 crores in building metro, 100 crores on the sewage. Those standards not PC times. In AC times, there are 2 priorities have to come in place. Clean, green, and healthy is a must. No destination can survive without those. Marketing, budgets, all throw that away and put the money into these things. And then we will find we'll pay rich rewards.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for that. There is a question from Nitin Sambi. As of now, our responsible tourism products are not affordable. This is a question I think, again, very, very relevant, and Rohit, you did touch upon it, are not affordable to all the consumers as the infrastructure of these sustainable hotels have a higher price tag. Though there are great responsible luxury products which can be offered in India, thankfully to all the ones who have endorsed the concept, but it is still not affordable to many segments. Rohit, would you like to take that on?
Yeah, Shobha, I want to actually very quickly address the question before this also, because this is really symptomatic of the problem we have in our country. I think we are all sitting there and wondering, why is the government not doing anything? It's really time for the industry to step up. I think all of us need to get out of our shells and work together. The government will do what it has to do. Legal framework, yes or no. Unfortunately, we all know legal frameworks in this country don't mean much. Forget tourism in many forms. So let's all focus on our little boxes and let's just worry about what we can do. If all of us do this, we'll do a lot. To answer the second question, Shobha, products could be more expensive because it really depends on how much they invest. Investment could be in land, investment could be in the infrastructure, whatever. Having said that, again, responsible tourism per se is not expensive. There could be a responsible tourism product that is more expensive. But I will go back to CGH, for example. When Jose mentioned when they opened Bangaram, it was not only the $180 that they used to spend. It was an expensive product. You had to fly to Agatti. There was a whole getting there and getting back. There was a story. Yet they flourished. Okay, there is demand. There is people understand their obligations. And look at CGH hotels are not the most expensive hotels by any standards. Okay, they're not budget, but they've done a fantastic job. in being responsible, both to the environment and to the community. And they have scaled up and they have made it a sustainable business. And I'm using Joe's as an example. There are many great companies out there who've done a remarkable job. So it's a myth and it's a misnomer and a misconception that responsible tourism is more expensive.
But on the other hand, Rohit, also you've got responsible travel products that are hugely expensive, but so be it. And that's the choice that the traveler has to make. And I think if you do it like, let's say the ITCs of the world, if they are selling responsible luxury, I think there's a space for it.
Absolutely.
I won't worry about it. My point is that we should ensure that we don't undervalue or undersell our products. I think that is a greater concern when you get into price wars, because you're putting the axe on your own foot. The customer needs to realize that those products, there's a lot of hard work that goes into putting that experience together for you.
I agree completely, Mandy.
Yeah. Can I just come in here? Do I have time?
Yes, go ahead, Jose.
Okay, a little bit on this budget and pricing. See, we have a classification system in India of 1-star to 5-star deluxe and luxury. So I think what we can really look at is redefine what luxury means. Luxury does not only mean marble and gold, it also means fulfillment of sustainable practices. The more luxurious you are, the more higher your fulfillment requirement. And thereby, you will find that the providers or builders of luxury hotel will need to be much more responsible. And being responsible is the reason for people to pay the price. And that's why the customer pays the price, not for the marble, but for saying that my staying there would mean that I'm benefiting community, benefiting environment, and therefore I will pay the price.
Brilliant. Yeah, that will be really revisiting our concepts of luxury, which is largely, up until now, it's largely about excesses of everything. We have time to take 2 quick questions. There is one from Anirudh Chowji. Thank you, Anirudh. How would an RT operator respond differently from other operators in post-COVID era? Would the customer pay additionally? Should it be required? Quickly, Rohit, this is for you.
Again, I come back to the point I made earlier. Price is relative. Mandy said there are some of the most expensive products in the world are actually really basic products. They are not the most luxurious products in the hotel industry, in the product business. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be expensive. Should people be asked to pay more? Maybe not. Should people be asked to a fair price? Absolutely. Should people expect to pay a fair price? Most definitely. And I think this again ties into the value proposition, as Mandy just alluded to as well. So I think really responsibility is being responsible is a choice all of us have. And it's anyone can take very small steps. Some products do a fabulous job and go whole hog in making their product sustainable. Some travel companies do a lot in being responsible and sustainable, and some haven't even started on that journey yet. We need to manage this and balance this very well. So I don't believe people need to pay more. People should not expect to pay more. People should expect to pay for the value, and they need to understand what they're paying for. I think that's
Thank you, Rohit.
Shobha,
so we have
Shobha,
this. Sorry,
Shobha, can I intervene a moment? There is a special request from Maria, Miss Maria Teresa from SCOL International. She is also a winner of an annual award for sustainable tourism. She just wants to say a few words for half a minute.
Yes, sir.
Maria, would you please? Yeah, Maria, would you please go ahead?
Hello.
Unmute. Yeah.
Yes. Hello.
You have 60 seconds. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. Yes, it's very quick. I just want to congratulate you. I'm Maria Teresa Diaz from Spain. At the moment, I'm the Senior Vice President of SCOL International. Globally, I really congratulate you on this webinar. It has been a pleasure to be here and to listen to you. I think India is looked at the world. I mean, the world looks at India as a sustainable product. So if you put the correct price, and you're talking on that, and you're doing very well, the added value, you will be the first one to to work on it, of course. I mean, not the first one. The people will look at you at the best. And I wanted to mention that School International has launched for 19 years already the Sustainable Tourism Awards that gears towards enhancing the visibility and brand recognition to entities from the travel and tourism industry. So you are all welcome, all your enterprises and all people, although they are not from SCAL, to enter for these categories prizes. You have until the end of June of this year to enter for this year's prizes. Otherwise, next year, every year, we're going to launch them. So thank you very much. And anything you need from me, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for that.
Maria.
Thank you, Maria. We'll work with SCAL.
I just want to say very quickly, that's heartening to know about your awards, because I was a judge for a few years. So they are great initiative. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. I was about to say that Mandeep has been a judge on Sustainable Tourism Awards for SCAL also. And thank you very much, Mr. Mathur and Shobha and everybody. It's been a lovely session with you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There is.
Thank you.
There is one last note from Mr. Deepak Haksar, and I'd like to address this to Mridula. Sustainable actions are the critical call of our times. The current crisis is partly because of the lack of our commitment to preserving our environment, rapid and unplanned urbanization, destruction of our natural reserves, and the result of climate change. How do we sensitize both leaders and the civil society to play a more active role? Which will be the key to as we move forward.
I wish I had a recipe. It's a question. I'm an urban planner by training, so it always disturbs me when I see things the way they should be, but they don't. And I was just reflecting on how Jose reacted, saying law doesn't help, so do something else more creative. So I don't know what the solution lies, but I feel solution definitely would involve dialogue, which perhaps there is not much of at the moment. Communities, governments and businesses try and think. Last time, all of us were in a room and trying to find a creative solution. So I think the first step will have to be that dialogue and trust building. Then maybe something will emerge that looks closer to a solution.
Thank you, Mridula. Over to Anjuna now. Anjuna, could you take this forward?
So this is what our journey has been so far. Years to join hands with us and a movement. I just saw a note on the chat saying those who are not responsible or part of responsible tourism movement have to be, irresponsible. So is that the tag that we all want us, to carry? So interesting thought. We are open to memberships. More the merrier, because it has to become all our movement to have any real effect on the ground. The comments on chat are very encouraging. There are various ways of being associated. You could be partner member, affiliate member, patron, and a grand patron member. If you are an organization, you could also join us as an individual member. There are multiple roles, and we would like you to take up any that you may identify with. As already said, we are an advocacy body, we are a policy-making group. We work with all the stakeholders. We help in knowledge creation and dissipation. We do CC studies and much else. RTSOI is a resource and skilling center for sustainability matters. We are a guidelines, standard certification body for responsible and sustainable tourism. We also plan to take responsible traveler campaigns, taking the movement to the very consumer. To know more, log into rtsoi.org. Check us out on Instagram at Responsible Tourism Society of India, on Facebook on Responsible Tourism Society of India, on our YouTube channel. And if you can't get anything else, write to me at anjunadheer@rtsoi.org. This was our first webinar. We have a series of webinars planned, more specific to the on-ground RT practices. Please join us in these too. Thank you for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, our esteemed panelists, for sharing your ideas. Thank you, Shobha and team, for helping us organize this. I do hope post-COVID-19 world is a more responsible, sustainable world and a much cleaner, safer place for all of us. Thank you.